Leadership isn't just changing, it's evolving in ways we're only just beginning to imagine. And women, we're not playing this game anymore. We're the ones reshaping the entire field, building models, movements, and businesses that serve more than just a few. On the She Leads podcast, you'll hear real conversations with women who've broken through all kinds of barriers: revenue, identity, borders, and expectations. There's no sugarcoating here, just the truth, told by those who are living it. I'm Adrienne Garland, entrepreneur, strategist, educator, and creator of live experiences, gathering women leaders together for over a decade. And this is the She Leads podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the She Leads podcast. I'd like to kick off today's episodes with just a couple of asks. First, if you haven't done so already, before you listen to this episode, please pause and take just 2 minutes to give the show a 5-star rating and review. In the year of the fire horse, we want to light up the world with the journeys, stories, and wisdom of women entrepreneurs and leaders. And there's no better way to do that than to rate and review the show. Thank you so much for helping to share our incredible show with more people. Okay, our next guest is someone that I've had the privilege to know for a long time. We just figured out that it was almost 10 years. Welcome to the show, Jodi Bondi Norgaard. She's an entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, and a change maker who's dedicated to breaking gender stereotypes and advancing equality through business, media, and policy. Jodi is the founder of Dream Big Toy Company and the creator of the award-winning Go-Go Sports Girls line of dolls, books, and apps designed to encourage healthy, active play and inspire confidence in girls. She is also the author of the recently released book, More Than a Doll: How Creating a Sports Doll Turned into a Fight to End Gender Stereotypes. It's a powerful story of perseverance, purpose-driven entrepreneurship, and disrupting the status quo. Jodi's work has been featured in major media outlets, including the Today Show, Forbes, Parents, and the Chicago Tribune. She has worked with the White House Gender Policy Council under the Biden administration, the Gena Davis Institute on Gender in Media, and co-chaired the Toy Association's first Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee. Jodi's also a TEDx speaker, a regular contributor to Ms. Magazine, and she speaks nationwide on entrepreneurship, resilience, and the power of using business to drive cultural change while fighting for equality for women and girls. Of course, this is more than just work to you at this point, Jodi. It's a calling, a drive, your life's work. You've accomplished so much and brought so much attention to issues of equality, and yet here we are. And that's how I want to start today's podcast. But first, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. Yes, I know. We're still fighting, right? It shouldn't be
We're
something we
still
have to fight
fighting.
for, but we have to fight for it. So
Yes.
it is a calling. You're right, Adrienne. It's a calling. It's a passion. It's my mission. So I'm just never going to give up.
And I love that. And I feel very much the same when it comes to equality for women entrepreneurs. I mean, just, gender equality in general, it is just confounding to think that we're even having this conversation, and yet it persists. And we have definitely backslid, I think, even in the last very short period of time, so many rights have been taken away for women, and just the atrocities around the world against women and girls is mind-boggling. Let's actually start at the beginning for those of our listeners who might not be familiar with your story. Can you talk about how you started Go-Go Sports Girls, how that was born?
Mhm. Well, I had an aha moment, and it was with my daughter, who was 9 at the time, and she's 29 now. So this is how long I've been doing this. It's crazy. So I have two boys on either side. She's the middle. And we're running into a toy store because she needed a wrap birthday gift for a party she was attending in 30 minutes, like that panicky parent moment. but she was still in her soccer uniform because she got done, playing soccer on a Saturday afternoon. So she had her shin guards on, her, hair's on all crazy, messy pigtails. And I tell you this because she just looked like a normal kid on a Saturday afternoon. When we're frantically going up and down the aisle looking for, a toy or a gift for her friend, when a line of dolls just stopped me in my tracks. They had on short skirts, crop top, belly button ring, big hair, lots of makeup. I look at my daughter, I look at these dolls, I pick up one of the dolls, and the name on the hang tag is Lovely Lola. Now, Adrienne, if I can turn around for a second, Lola lives with me. And
Okay. She lives in the cabinet.
I do. I mean, she travels with me. She is so this is what I saw. And I was like, I'm done with it. I'm so sick and
Yeah.
tired of these negative messages that are marketed to girls. So I started picking up the other dolls in the line, and it was Sizzle and Sue and Cute Candy and all these like, ugh, ugh, I don't like it. So I bought the doll as I'm scolding all the salespeople, saying, you should not be marketing sex to girls. I just had a complete meltdown in this toy store. And I did. I brought the doll home to my husband. I'm like, listen, I am so sick and tired of this. And I think I can do something about it. I think I can create a positive image product that encourages girls to be healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally through sports and physical activity. I I love sports. I'm
Yeah.
good at about everything. I'm great at nothing. But I saw it as, like it was always my escape when the kids were little, right? It made me a better person. It made me a better mom. I was more patient. It cleared my head. I found it my meditation when I would go for a run. So I saw the benefits of sports and physical activity. So I
Mhm.
thought, I don't see any sports dolls out there. I just see, that we're pigeonholing girls into, having to focus on their appearance versus, focusing on what their minds and bodies can do.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started. It started in a toy store, and it took me 2 years from rough draft to the actual debut of the first doll. But when I started doing my research, I needed,
Mhm.
and I thought it was really interesting. I didn't find any sports dolls out there, which I was really kind of surprised. I found baby dolls, I found rag dolls, I found 75 lines of fashion dolls. That's 75 brands of fashion dolls,
Oh my
which I
god.
thought, this is crazy. Like,
Yeah.
why? Why? It's like, the analogy that I use sometimes, like when I was growing up, all we had was peanut butter, right? That was it. And
Mhm.
then when we started to introduce, like, all the different nut butters, right? The pistachio, cashew, the different milks and all that stuff, the nut butter industry exploded. It took
Yeah.
away from the peanut revenue a tad, but
Yeah.
the entire industry exploded. So, that it's my point. We're offering girls 75 lines of fashion dolls and nothing else. That's it.
Mm.
It's still
But
that way to this day.
well, I was going to ask that. What has changed since then? I mean, a little bit, not much.
A little bit. I think, companies are trying to do better. Toy companies, the toy industry is struggling.
Mm.
And there's reason, right? They're not giving out good products at times, or some of them products are fabulous, but some of the products just are a miss.
Yeah.
So, and that can be due to other, like the computer and games and mobile
Sure.
games and things like that. A lot of kids online, but yeah, but still, yeah, they're kind of it. I mean, I can give you two examples of how it's not doing better, especially in the doll category,
Exactly. Yeah.
if you'd like. I mean,
Yes.
okay. So there was one company that was very interested in acquiring my brand, and they said, but however, and this was probably in 2018, and they said, we already have a girl empowerment product coming out. And I said, "Oh, you do? Well, that's exciting. I can't wait to see what it is." And what it was a doll called Fail and Fix. And Fail and Fix, what you got was a doll that looked like it had the worst hangover bedhead that any person has ever had. She had, makeup coming down, her hair is, all crazy. And the job of the kid, generally usually the little girl, right, is to make her look pretty. And it had all the accessories to make her look pretty.
Make her over.
That was their girl empowerment product. Well,
Wow.
it failed so badly. They
Good.
had so many complaints that they took it off the shelf within a year.
Oh
Then the next one are the LOL dolls. Are you familiar with the little LOL? It's
no.
made by MGA, which is the maker of the Bratz dolls. So it was the LOL dolls. So maybe some of your listeners will remember these. Or it's still out there. They come in a ball, right? And it's like it's a surprise feature. And you open the ball, and you tear open all these little packages, and there's the doll and all these accessories. Well, one of the things they disclosed was that there's a secret color change in these dolls. So say you dip it in cold water, the dolly with white hair now has pink hair. So kind of fun for the kids. What they
Sure.
didn't disclose is that some of the dolls that you dip in the water and you pull them out, they have a clothing change. And some of those clothing change was sexy lingerie,
No.
mhm, devil tail on its backside, caution tape on some of them over their private parts, and some actually had shackles on their wrists and ankles.
No.
Yes. Yes. I wrote about this. So many people wrote about it. I mean, it was just, it won the Toy Association Toy of the Year Award too in 2018, 19, and 20. And I
Oh
called them and
my
because I
God.
have relationships with them. I'm like, do you know this? And they're like, no. I mean, this
They didn't know.
company has made over $1 billion. It's a privately owned company. So they suspect that over $1 billion on these little dollies. And this is what they are marketing to girls. Like, how can you sit around a conference table and say, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's put shackles on their wrists. I mean, there's such terrible messages for girls and for boys who see this. Like, this is
Yeah.
how you treat girls. Yeah, they should have shackles on their wrists or, caution tape on their private parts. It's insane. So they stopped doing that after people, mainly women and mothers had a complete fit.
Yeah.
But this should not even have made
No, that shouldn't see the light of day. Yeah, exactly. Jodi, I'm absolutely speechless. I had no idea. And one of the reasons that I probably don't know is because I have two boys. And so I'm not buying the dolls. I'm not in the doll aisle and things like that. That is absolutely pathetic. And
Mhm.
it just sort of supports the whole entire misogyny that I think permeates the globe and that we're seeing be brought to light with everything that's going on in the news right now. And it's just absolutely awful and terrible. And I do think that, some of the powers that be want to get those messages in to girls early so that so that they're sort of groomed and expect this, and that is not the right way that humanity should be going.
No, not at all.
Wow.
And I agree with you. There was like when I'm in my speaking events, a lot of times I say, you know, I was that good girl. I didn't make waves. I had there, I had sexual harassment. A lot of times I just was like, oh well,
Yeah.
I just have to deal with that, right?
Jerk. Yeah.
You know, and then, halfway, like in my late 30s, I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
maybe it's not me. Maybe
Right.
it is our system. Maybe it is our culture. It's
Yeah.
not me. All these
No.
self-help classes out there for women, all these books and everything. Okay, great. Great. But I always say women and girls are not broken. It's our system that's broken and our culture that needs to be fixed. And
Yes.
what I am doing with my book and everything that I have organically gone through is I'm saying, hey, I'm sounding the siren that gender inequality doesn't begin in our teens or our 20s. It begins the moment a child can hold a book, a toy, or watch a screen. So
Yeah.
we need to it's like that light bulb going off, right? There's so many things in life, and it's just human nature. We go through life, and it's just that's the way it is. That's the way
Yep.
it is. That's the way it is. Until you see, and for me, it was in inequality, and then more inequality, and then my room just got so bright, and
Yes.
now I feel like it's my job to hand out all these flashlights because there
Yeah.
are so many inequalities. And why do we have to fight? And why are women's rights always on the table? It's like, no,
Yeah. It's confounding. It makes absolutely no logical sense whatsoever, and I
Mhm,
agree with you too. I think, just, growing up, we're so conditioned that, this is the way that things are, and I do think that so many women, that are sort of in our generation, we accepted things until we didn't, and I do think that it sort of happened in our 30s, like, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" Because we were sold we were in a certain system, and then we got to a point, and everything that we were told about how equal we were and how capable we were, we realized that it actually wasn't reality. And I
mhm,
think that's the thing, like, wait a minute, why is this happening when we always thought we were equal all along, and turns out we weren't, or at least in other people's views, or the way that the world operates, we weren't. And it's maddening and infuriating, and I too came to that same realization, which is in many ways why I started my company as well, to say, why don't women get funded at the same rate that men do? Why don't women accelerate into the C suite at, the same exact rate? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
mhm.
One of the things I want to almost turn back to, that I just love. I love that when you were faced with this problem, that you said, "I'm going to do something about this," and then
Mhm,
you did. I
mhm,
just want to ask, like, where did that come from? That,
mhm.
because I don't know, and please share. Did you have any type of manufacturing background, or, toy company background, or anything like that?
Zippo, none,
Zippo.
0. So I hope to give women confidence. Like, I had to figure it out, and I had to ask a lot of questions. And if somebody didn't have the answer for me, I would always say, "Do you know somebody who may?" And then I would figure it out. But there was something deep inside me that truly believed that women and girls should have the right to rise to their full potential. And I felt like I was playing this game of whack-a-mole. Anytime I
Yeah.
rose, I got whacked. And
Yep.
I knew it wasn't just me.
No.
And I knew it started early. And so I was determined to figure it out. I was
Yeah.
so determined.
Mm. I'm so inspired, I'm so in awe, and at the same time, I'm also wondering, you just came out with an incredible book that goes through your story, and, everything that it took to start your company, to sell your company. I mean, that's even something that women entrepreneurs don't always get the chance to do. That's a whole process in and of itself, and then to also, go out and put yourself out there in
Mhm.
a way that brings a lot of attention, to yourself. This is something that I think so many women want, so many
Mhm.
women are inspired by and motivated by, and yet there's also fear. And
Mhm.
it's not unfounded. I mean, when women speak up, we are whacked down, or worse, right?
Mhm.
So what I guess advice could you give to the people that are listening in, if they are passionate and they have all of the facts and the stats and everything to support their point of view, even if it ruffles feathers, what has kept you speaking up continuously?
Well, a few things is that, I got to this point of who cares if it ruffles feathers? You know what? I have heard so many things. I mean, men have called me a man hater, and I'm supposed to be like, "Oh, okay, that thanks, what am I supposed to say to that, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna say that to me, watch out, right? Like, I'm not letting that go. And a lot of terms that I use
Hmm.
when I feel like I'm in a position where, I'm either a deer in headlights or I want to just bite back really badly and may say something that's not a good thing. I always go to the phrase, "What do you mean by that? Can you
Mm,
more?" Like, you
yeah.
called me a manhandler. So what do you mean by that? I
Right.
have two amazing boys and I have a fabulous husband. Okay, no, I don't.
N
I just believe in equality. So
Right,
I don't, the ruffling of the feathers, we again, we're taught to be, many of us, women are taught to be the good girl, and
right.
we're not taught to ruffle those feathers. But it's
No.
okay to speak up. It's okay to use your voice. I wish more women would speak up, and we are seeing that right now in
Yes.
our culture, which I'm so happy about, that so many women are not going on the sidelines or back to the sidelines. They
Mhm.
are actually speaking up. And they're
Yeah.
in and usually on like my okay, two things. One thing is that I realized early on that nobody else was going to toot my own horn about my product. So I needed to toot my own horn. It wasn't that I was tooting it. It wasn't about like me, but I had to toot my own horn about my product. And I
Yeah.
needed to get out there and I needed to talk about it. So, that is number one. And number two, which I just had this realization, is that anytime I would write something either for Ms. Magazine, and oh, by the way, Washington Post I'm now an author for them, as well as the Chicago Tribune. Those were two were just added recently. But
Congratulations.
you know, negative comments.
Yeah.
And I've always been in the mindset like, okay, I'm just going to hide that. I am not going to debate. I'm never going to debate. But now I just shut them down. I am just
Yeah.
like, you're wrong. Go back in your hole. I'm not saying it that way. I try to do it in a very nice way, but
Yeah.
it's like I am not going to just do that anymore. I'm not just going to hide that comment. I am actually going to say, hey, you're wrong. And
Yeah.
and I'm not going to get into a debate, but I am going to do that. So I think, you
Yeah.
know, I think to we need to speak up and use our voice more and more. And I get it. Like there are situations when you're in groups of men, for some reason, I feel like, why am I not getting my voice out a second more, a second
Yeah.
faster? Why are
Yes.
they faster than me? But they're sometimes louder. And I have learned to be like, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I have something, and just in a, they're interrupting me, but then I'm interrupting them.
Yeah.
So trying to be more assertive and more aggressive, but not mean. You can always do things in a very nice way, but just holding my ground, I guess, and I think women, we just need that confidence, just to say, F it. Like I'm confident in who I am. I have good ideas. And I was just meeting with a young woman who is she's a venture capitalist, and she did say it is incredible how many men come to her company for money, and they get it, and they do not even have a plan.
My God.
And she's like, and then women come to their company and have this amazing plan, and they
And
don't
they
get
don't
the money.
get funded. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of evidence that shows that venture capitalists, I mean, it's all pattern matching, right? So that
Mhm.
venture capitalists, they fund businesses on the potential. And for women, they look at what is your history? Do you have the experience? And they are not funding women's businesses on potential. And it's just because, I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Venture capitalists keep putting bets on companies that have achieved unicorn status, that look like a certain way, that have a certain, founder team, and that team hasn't historically been women. One of the things that I'm really thinking about a lot, I'm actually, maybe this is a shout out, I'm taking a course right now put on through IDEO, and it's all about design thinking and leveraging AI to help with design thinking. And
Mhm.
the problem that I'm exploring right now is this. It's, what can women do to fund their businesses that are outside of the traditional means? Because if we keep going back to that same well, and that well is not, you know satisfying our thirst, why do we keep going back to that same well? So is there an alternative to the traditional models? And I don't know the answer, but I definitely want to explore it. And it's sort of
Mhm.
the same thing with like, why are we, I think you are sort of walking the talk, but like, why are we even caring that men are not giving us the platform or the attention that we feel like we deserve? If we keep going to that stage and we're, pushed aside, then let's create our own stages. Let's create
Mhm.
our own ecosystems. And then let's really support one another. And it doesn't have to be, I certainly don't want this message to be that women are better, because I don't believe that. I believe, like you said, it's about equality, it's about humanity. So how can we create the conditions for humanity to
Mhm.
flourish and not
Mhm.
put, men at the top or women at the top, but how can we do this together? And that's a
Mhm.
great experiment, I think.
Oh, it is, and th- that is all about equality, right? Is that you know, there's not one gender that's better than the other, but
No.
the problem is that the starting line is different
Yep.
for women than it is for.
Yes.
I had
Yes.
a conversation with a man once, and he said, he's like, I came from very little. I saw that yellow brick road and I took it. I took it. And I'm like, wow, some people don't even know that yellow brick road exists.
Right.
They don't even know it's there. And some
Yeah.
people have to climb mountains to find that yellow brick road. I said,
That's
you
right.
opened your door and that yellow brick road was there.
You're so
So
right.
good for you, right? But it's not that way for everybody. And it's
Right.
just finding that way, how do we close that gap?
Yeah.
That's the question. But I like what you're saying, Adrienne, and I agree with you, is that, women have to support women more and more and more and more. For many in many different platforms for us to continue to rise. And I am seeing that, which is great.
Yes.
And then also it's it's supporting really good men as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That understand this issue. But the
Yes.
powers that be are really putting in a lot of barriers, and making
Yes.
it a lot harder for us, and they're going to continue to make it a lot harder for us. But
Agreed.
we just need to keep, you know, like you, giving women a platform to have a voice, which is great.
Hey, everyone. So, for years, I've been working with Dr. Kent and sending people in my network his way. He does so much impact work. What do I mean by that? Well, he helps people create books and podcasts and things like that. He even helps with this podcast behind the scenes. Dr. Kent is my thought partner. Anyone listening knows that we all need to do what we can to get our thoughts, opinions, and voices out into the world, and how important it is for women to invest in other women and for women to hire other women. I am all about that, and you all know that. But in this case, I think Dr. Kent is an exception. He's doing something really different via this new program that he's launched called the Genius Discovery Program. So he wants to work with people like me and like you who are impact driven. Dr. Kent has an intensive program that goes for a month. He also has a 3-month program where he figures out where you're headed with your brand, your business, your speaking, and your signature story as a thought leader. I've known Dr. Kent for a long time. So believe me when I say that he has a ton of experience working with people that are looking to make an impact but might not know exactly how to approach that. So if you're interested in talking to him, you can go directly to talktokent.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at She Leads Media, or just shoot me an email over at hello@sheleadsmedia.com. We really do need to leverage the media in order to share more women's stories and get more women's opinions and thought leadership out
Mhm.
there. And that's why I admire so much what you do, because you are leveraging different media properties, your own, other more mainstream media, and then also, platforms like this that are, maybe not as widely spread, but it's, certainly, I hope, an influential type of platform. And that's what we all have to do. And we have to do it in an imperfect way,
Mhm.
because we are all just trying to, figure this thing out.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about your newest book? I would love to hear all about it and hear how we can get our hands on it.
Okay. Oh, so more than a doll. So yes, how creating a sports doll turned into a fight to end gender stereotypes. So when I started in on the speaking circuit, I had a lot of people at different events say, "Where can I buy your book?" I'm like, I don't have a book. And so I decided I would write one. And then COVID hit, and that was a perfect time to write a book. And so I have a fabulous editor, and she's a great friend. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to write this book. I'm going to self publish it and, be done with that. As we're writing it, she's like, this is bigger than self publishing. She's like, you need to find an agent, you need to find a publisher. And I did. I found an agent,
Wow.
found a publisher, and about a year ago, we launched it. And it's just my entrepreneurial journey, along with the perseverance, the persistence, the giving women courage, a blueprint to just keep going. I am definitely not one person to say, I'm right about everything, or I'm right about even a lot of things. I know I'm wrong about a lot of things, but when it comes to women and girls and having equality, you bet I am 100% right. I am
Yeah.
100% right. And right now, to achieve gender parity, we are approximately 130 years away from that. And we're going backwards, like you said in the beginning. We are
Yeah.
going backwards. The United Nations considers the US a backsliding democracy. And when it comes to women, we are really backsliding. So the more women that can speak up, the more women that can come forward and tell our stories is hugely important, because you think about history and you think about the amount of times we learned about these men that did these amazing things. And I do remember sitting in history class in high school and thinking, you got to be kidding me, there aren't any women that did great.
Yeah.
I'm calling BS on that one. I
Yeah.
totally. And, sure enough, there are amazing women that had done amazing things. And then, either the men, what is it called? The Matilda effect, where
Yeah.
men constantly took the credit of women.
Yes.
They came
Oh,
up with ideas and, inventions, and our stories. So anyway, it's, more and more women are getting these stories out there, their stories out there. And, we're saying enough is enough. Seriously, at this point, we have nothing to lose. We
no.
seriously have nothing to lose. So we just need to, just strap in, buck up, and just, fight.
Keep going. Yeah, keep
Right?
fighting.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's why I'm wondering. I mean, you have so many, prospects. You're going to be doing so much writing, and it's incredibly influential. Where do you see yourself in the next, 5 or 10 years? Where do
Mhm.
you see this movement going?
Well, I really hope we come out on top. I really
Yeah.
do. Who knows? You don't know what, you know, restrictions are going to be imposed upon us, to silence us. Where do I see myself? I have a lot more books in me. I know I do.
Yeah.
And so when I started writing a book, I never was a writer. I mean, I like to write, but it wasn't something that I thought I'd ever do, you know, in my lifetime. And I enjoyed it so much. And I enjoy writing these articles so much. I can't
Yeah.
even tell you. So I feel that I'm thankful for Ms. Magazine for giving me such a platform to, write articles.
Mhm.
And, now with the Tribune, the Sun Times, and the Washington Post under my belt as well, I
You're a journalist.
I think I'm doing okay. I think I'm doing
Yeah.
okay. And I just want to, if that's the best way for me to get my voice out. I mean, I do speak. I love, getting in front of a group of women or even a group of men and women, because men need to hear this story too. There was an event I spoke at about 2 weeks ago, and the majority of people in the audience were men. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you, I was a little nervous. I was like, oh my God, but I just went along. They were so amazing, and the questions they asked, and they were on board, and they wanted to learn more. And
Yeah.
so I felt like shame on me for being nervous about that, but I have been attacked before by guys.
Sure.
But they were they were fabulous. I was
Mm.
super impressed, and I really enjoyed having them in the audience.
Mm. I love to hear that, and I do think that there is hope. I certainly don't think that all men want to keep women down. I think that, the majority of men really do see the benefit in diversity and, working together. I mean, for all the men that are brought up by just incredible women, I mean, I hear so many young men talk about their inspiration is their mom and
Mhm.
how their mom basically, held the family together and worked and did all the things and was creative and fun and active and, all of it. And I love hearing those stories. They make me cry because
Mhm.
it is so true. We definitely don't get the accolades that we deserve and we still continue to do this incredible and amazing work. So I love that there's evidence to you for you and now for everybody listening that there are men that are certainly on, women's sides, and then there are men that are not. And we just have to not pay as much attention to those voices and really amplify the ones that are for humanity. So,
Mhm.
I wanted to ask one other question that just kind of came to my mind as we were talking. Your path from, creating a physical product as sort of like I'm trying to think of the right word, but as a a talisman maybe for, what can be done to change and sort of starting from a product into a movement and thought leadership. Is that something that you think that more women can look to as a template? Because and the reason I'm asking is I've been thinking a lot lately about how there are so many women owned businesses that are in, let's say, either the beauty category or like, the category of like constrictive wear. You know, a lot of the women owned companies that kind of hold up the patriarchy are the ones that succeed,
Mhm.
and, other companies that sort of, call out the patriarchy have a harder time. But
Mhm.
I'm very interested in this idea of like create a product and get, a lot of attention around it and use that as a platform for
Mhm.
to make change. So can you just
Mhm.
talk to that a little bit?
So you're asking about, like, maybe is it like my business ended up being a mission driven business. Is that what you're, asking? Like, how do women have a mission driven business, or how do they have a business that is successful? It doesn't have to be mission driven at all.
It does not have to be. I guess what I'm trying to tease out is you started a product-based business that yes, it was mission driven, but the mission was bigger than the product.
100%.
And so the product was the thing that almost launched the platform and the mission. And so, do I guess my question is, do you think that that's a good pathway for women who may not be seen as
Mhm.
credible with their thought leadership without having that type of, something tangible
Mhm.
to launch from?
Right, right. I think having a tangible product right now in this day and age as a single, like, entrepreneur, trying to put it this way, if I were to do the Go-Go Sports Girls right now, it
Yes.
would have been a no-go because of the
Mm,
tariff, right? We cannot
yes.
get anything manufactured here in the States. So if it's something that you can get manufactured here in the States, okay, have at it. If you have to go over to China, Vietnam, Taiwan, some another country, forget it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
insane. It was learning. There was a company, Learning, not Learning Express, but Learning something something, and a company that's been around for maybe 60 years. And they actually filed a lawsuit against the administration because the tariffs that were on China were 100 and some percent. And
Yeah.
this guy is like, we were paying millions of dollars in tariff. We're a small company. We can't afford this. Well, they won. They actually
Wow.
just won. Yeah,
That's incredible.
I know it is incredible. So as a small company, I mean, even I work with Hasbro a lot, and they are it's hurting them, and they're the largest toy company in the U.S. So,
Yeah.
if it's hurting a big company like that, so the tariffs are really tough right now. So, bringing a product to market right now would be again very tough unless you can have it in the states. But I mean, there are so many different avenues, and so many women are so talented in so many different areas. But it is just believing in women, believing in say their store or their accounting firm or their investment firm or whatever their drive and mission is, and
Mhm.
supporting them.
Let me ask you this now that you are a journalist. If women have stories, and I don't know exactly what the Washington Post and Chicago Tribune, your columns are about, but, are you sort of highlighting other women's stories, or are you staying in the sports realm?
No, I'm doing all. But here's the thing: every time a publication picks it up, it is just I'm just freelance, right? So I'm not working for them. It's like I am writing. Okay, so Adrienne, I hope I can say this, and I'm not a swearer, but if there is something that it like the U.S. women's hockey team and the men's
Yes.
hockey team,
I read your piece. Yes.
that's the one the Washington Post is picking up too, and I said to myself, motherfucker and what the fuck so many times
Yeah.
that I said to myself, oh my God, I have got to write something because this is
Yeah.
insane what is going on. And
Yeah.
so I did. And again, like I said, I have never been that person who said those words daily or even, through the week. Now I find myself saying it all the time. And I'm like, what is going on? And so anytime I feel like I'm in that mode, I'm like, I gotta write an article. That's it.
Oh, I love this. I mean, I think that that's amazing. It has an emotional response for you that is visceral and, angering. And yeah, like that is the key indicator that it is time to talk about it. And I hope
Mhm.
more women, listening to this, they're inspired to do the same thing. Like this is what we need to do. We need to learn how to write these really influential pieces, put them out there. And it's very encouraging. And you have a body of work behind you, you have a book and all of that. But it's very encouraging to know that some of these larger publications are also looking to, bring women into the fold and
Mhm.
also to share their writings and their thought leadership. So that is incredibly encouraging.
And the other thing is that like to support others, and if people are wanting to write, I'd say go on Substack. I've been very very pleased with that platform, and a lot of times if nobody picks up my article, I'm like that's fine. I'm putting it on Substack, right? Like it'll
Yep.
go out to my list. But like every woman, comment on, like you just say I love what you're doing. Thank you for your words, or thank you for your energy, whatever it may be. But
I
it's
love it.
putting yourself out there just to say keep going, right? I do
Yeah.
that all the time, like keep going, like I appreciate you,
Yeah.
because it's hard right now, it's very hard, and
It
a lot of
is.
women are just wanting that affirmation of yeah, okay, I gotta keep moving forward. So
Yes.
and then in turn, most likely they'll support you. So
Yeah, that's such great advice. And I do think that we are collectively tired. And so those affirmations and those keep goings are
Mhm.
really, really important, even if they're not tied to, money. I also know there are so many times that I just feel like it's so difficult. It's difficult getting women to or anybody to, come out to these events that I put on, despite the incredible content and people that I, put up on stage. It's harder and harder. And, I just ask myself a lot of times, like, why am I continuing to do this when it's so hard? And then I'll get a message randomly from someone like, you don't even know what you did to change my life.
Mhm.
And then they tell me a story from, 5 years ago. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay,
I
I guess
gotta
I'll
keep
keep,
going.
yeah, I guess I'll keep doing this. I do need to think of a better business model that, that gets some revenue and resources coming into the business, but it does prompt me to keep going.
Well,
So,
I am very, very glad. And you know what, Adrienne, I wrote about this and it made me think when you were talking about that story, is that I realized that like in June, I was very tired. Granted, I was doing like a book tour and I was traveling everywhere, but I was just tired with everything that was going on. Like, God. And I realized it's okay to be tired. It's okay to rest because this is
yeah.
exhausting what we're doing, but we cannot give up.
Yes.
So our rest is needed. And it doesn't, it could be a week, it could be a day, it could be a month, but
Yeah.
we need to get back up and continue to fight. But it is
Mm.
okay to rest. It's not okay to give up. And another thing is that women, I hope they realize, and I'd love to get this message out, we are 51% of the population. We
Yeah.
control over 80%, maybe even 90% of the consumer spending power.
Yeah.
We have so much power that
Yeah.
we're not recognizing. And it's time that we recognize all these powers that we have and we press on together. We come together, press on together.
Yeah, we're the majority. We have the power, the spending power, and we're going to have I think it's, 80 something percent of the world's wealth by, 2030. So those are all amazing things that are stacked in our favor. And I agree with you. It's like, let's recognize that we have this power and do something about it.
Yeah, and that is why there are restrictions on women because the power it be right now is afraid of our power. And that's
Yes.
why they're putting on those restrictions. If we had no power, they wouldn't care.
Yeah.
They wouldn't care one
You're so
bit.
right. You are so right. Jodi, I think that I could talk to you for another 2 hours about a lot of other things. I just really appreciate you spending time with me and the listeners of the She Leads podcast here today. How can people, follow you, follow everything that you're doing, and if they want to reach out to you and connect with you, how can they do that?
Oh yeah, send me an email, Jodi Bond or Jodi at JV Norgaard Enterprises. Anyway, it's on my website. Don't even worry about that.
We'll put it in
Uh,
the show notes.
the social media that would be awesome. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, please just reach out. I would love to answer or help if I can.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation.
Well, thank you. I always love talking to you. It's so great.
If this conversation moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently, please take a moment to leave a 5-star rating and review. It's not just about boosting the show, it's about amplifying the voices of women entrepreneurs who are leading with vision, building with purpose, and shaping what's next. We need more of these conversations in the world right now, don't you think? And if someone came to mind while you were listening, someone who matters to you, send this episode to them. If there's something on your mind about leadership, legacy, or what's next, I want to hear it. Head to sheleadsmedia.com/voice and leave a voice memo or note. Your insight might just help shape a future episode. Make sure to follow the show and come back next week for more conversations you won't hear anywhere else. Thank you so much for listening. This is the She Leads Podcast Network.